Trustees' annual report for 2016, just in case you thought you were at meditative knitting or acrobalance. Any resemblance is purely coincidental. My name's Ingrid Greenhow, and I am clerk of your trustees, Britain Yearly Meeting Trustees of the Religious Society of Friends. On the platform with me are my assistant clerk, Nick Francis, Peter Ullathorne, the Yearly Meeting Treasurer, and Paul Parker, the recording clerk, who acts as the interface between governance and management. And could I ask the other trustees, please, to stand up, and just so people can see who you are. Thank you. They're a lovely bunch. I'd like to start with a few words that a friend from Wensleydale and Swaledale area meeting sent to Quaker Life Central Committee earlier this year, and I'm sorry the friend didn't put their name, but thank you. I love to feel that I am part of the great Quaker movement and that I am supporting a great deal of work in the world which I am not able to do myself. I feel valued for what I can do as part of the whole work. So what do we do? A huge amount of work goes on in the Religious Society of Friends, by local meetings, by area meetings, by various Quaker groups, by individual friends, and of course the centrally managed work. And it's the responsibility of your trustees to report to the yearly meeting on the £10 million worth of Quaker activity that happens centrally, work that supports our charitable objects. You, of course, can keep an eye on what we're doing, not only by reading the annual review, the blue one, which I assume you have done cover to cover, an activity with which, in the new format, will have taken you considerably less time than in the past, but also by keeping up with our minutes on the Quaker website and through your sufferings representatives who hear from us after every trustees meeting. So let's go back to this new look, less is more annual review, which is designed to be a much more engaging and interesting introduction to the centrally managed work. And it tells us how the centrally managed work is working towards the aspirations in our faith in the future. The review is smaller, it saves trees, it's less dense, it saves report overload, and it says what we're about, the tenets of our faith in the future, what we want our society to become, and how we're going about it. And it's the trustees' task to ensure that Quaker work is aligned with the aspirations in this document. And it's the task of all of us to live up to these aspirations. And it's important to remember that our faith in the future is more of a roadmap than a sat-nav. How we get there is up to us all. There's no disembodied voice, friends, saying in 300 metres you will arrive at your destination. If only it were that simple. Quaker communities are loving, inclusive, and all age. A meeting for worship is the bedrock of living as a Quaker. And I've put those two together to highlight the importance of the work of Quaker Life in helping our meetings reach those aspirations, in supporting our children and young people, and in helping meetings grow in the spirit. The Vibrancy Project is running in 4 pilot areas. It's both learning from meetings and supporting meetings. What do meetings really need? And how can those needs be met? And Quaker Life Central Committee is looking at changing patterns of membership. Quaker Life Representative Council's theme in April was helping seekers find Quakers, being worth the finding. All friends understand and live by Quaker discipline. As we've heard, reading Quaker Faith and Practice has had a huge take-up across the yearly meeting, simple and effective, and we need not be afraid of the word discipline, nor of helping newcomers understand what our discipline is. Quakers are well known and widely understood. Well, they were certainly well known at the Hay Festival this year, with a session involving 3 well-known literary friends. Swarthmore Hall continues to flourish. Have you been yet? It's absolutely brilliant. If you have been, please go again, and if you haven't been, please go. 16,000 people visited the hall last year. The new barn cafe was buzzing when I was there in July. And there were 330,000 visitors to Friends House, a third of a million. Because Friends House is a very popular location for courses and conferences. And last July, the Friends House hosted a free community garden party with afternoon tea, and more than 100 people turned up to enjoy fun and games and our newly refurbished garden. Our new website, we hope, is proving increasingly useful. It's been designed in an agile way so we can improve it in response to what users need. And we're setting up a blog. I don't know what a blog is, but I'm sure I ought to find out. To be able to share Quaker faith and to disseminate information more quickly to more people. Procurement. Our practices continue to develop with a framework to support purchasers to contract for goods and services in line with ethical values, and more importantly, to hold our suppliers to those values through contract management. To quote one of my fellow trustees, we do it ethically, we do it sustainably, and we do it well. Quaker values are active in the world. Peace education is thriving, as is the development of Turning the Tide approaches in Kenya and its spread to Rwanda and Burundi. Currently, work is going on to support the nuclear ban treaty negotiations and to try and get the UK government to participate. Hot off the press is the project on forced migration. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Quakers work collaboratively. Now, this is my favourite, because starting with ourselves, as trustees, we have a lot of meetings. And I want that to sound really positive. We create opportunities to meet and share ideas and concerns. So we have a 3 clerks meeting. That's Deborah Rowlands, Anne Ullathorne, and myself, and any reference to when shall we 3 meet again and all that. We have meetings with our hard-working clerks of our central and standing committees, who are all invited to trustees' meetings and sufferings to talk about their work, and they work incredibly hard on our behalf. Minutes are all very well, but meeting face-to-face wins hands down. Quaker Life Representative Council is another great way to find out what friends want. Trustees have also recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Woodbrook. We've always worked with Woodbrook. This memorandum represents that commitment to continue to work together further. 2016 saw the end of the Quaker Meeting House's Heritage Project, our collaborative project with Historic England and their small pot of non-lottery funding, a project that involved every area meeting and the hundreds of willing friends who came to the training days and filled in those lovely survey forms and made the consultants really welcome. And the consultants say this is the best project they ever worked on. We now know how many meeting houses there are in Britain Yearly Meeting. 345. Their state of repair, mostly very good. How many are listed? 46%, and how they are used and valued by the local communities. I attended Historic England's Expert Advisory Conference in March. I got this great badge saying Expert Advisor. My family think it's hilarious. And there I met the person who is revising the Pevsner Guide to North Yorkshire. I told her about the project. We sent her the relevant files, which are now on the website. Hooray, if you go to property or stewardship, you will find your meeting house and all the information listed. It's great. This is what the Pevsner writer said. I've now had time to download the files. Thank you so much. They look absolutely terrific. The whole of the North Riding is here. The only gap I can see is Whitby. Is this redundant? Actually, it's now an Italian restaurant. I'm hugely grateful, she said. This sort of thing gladdens the heart of the hard-pressed Pevsner reviser. So thank you, all those hundreds of friends who took part. It was so good to turn up at Historic England to be told, we love working with the Quakers. And we now have a proper professional basis for looking after our properties. And if you want me to get even more enthusiastic, come along at 2:30 this afternoon to Humanities and hear all about the project with people from Historic England and the architectural history practice. Another example of collaborative working, this is not part of the centrally managed work, but definitely worth a mention, is Mosedale Meeting House, where the Northern Fells group runs a coffee shop during the week. And when I dropped in last month, it was absolutely buzzing. And I love the sign on the notice board that says, I didn't write it down, but this is roughly what it says. This is where we worship, but it's not a sacred space. And we are happy for others to use this meeting house. And I'm sure there are many, many more meeting houses where this kind of collaborative and community work is going on. I also want to mention the behind-the-scenes work that goes on at Friends House, the kind of underpinnings, the less glamorous stuff that keeps the show on the road. We've been reviewing our bank arrangements, looking for possible alternative ethical providers of the services we need, both operationally and in relation to foreign currency payments. Finance and Property Committee will be reviewing our investment strategy, and income streams are being reviewed, and we're trailing some new approaches and messages. Sustainability. Friends House has reduced its carbon footprint by 29% since 2009. This is a huge achievement, especially with a building of this age and size, and with those 1/3 of a million visitors tramping through every year. And Friends House has also maintained its zero waste to landfill policy. We reduce, reuse and recycle where possible, and we only purchase 100% renewable electricity from good energy. Legacy funding. The legacy funded project scheme was agreed by trustees in 2013. Staff at Friends House are encouraged to put forward proposals for short-term projects that are additional to the core work, but do not bind us into long-term work in the first instance. And hot off the press is the Sanctuary Everywhere project, for which funding was agreed on Thursday. By becoming sanctuary meetings, local Quaker groupings commit together to building a culture of welcome, challenging racism in all of its forms, and changing the laws on destitution, detention, and deportation. This work will be supported by Quaker Peace and Social Witness through retreats, publicity materials, strategic advocacy support, and training in alliance building, lobbying, and community organising skills. This project respects, celebrates, and builds on the considerable and in some cases extraordinary actions already engaged in by so many friends to welcome people to Britain, especially through the City of Sanctuary groups, but also through individual acts of witness. We've also been able to commit a maximum of £533,500 of additional legacy funding over a 3-year period from the 1st of January next year to fund the Quaker United Nations Office Geneva's project on the human impacts of climate change, following the withdrawal of funding from the Swiss and Norwegian governments. It's just great to be able to do that. We are deeply grateful to friends and others for their legacies. It gives fresh life to the saying, where there's a will, there's certainly a way. Through the Quaker Recognised Bodies approach, we're improving and clarifying relationships between Britain Yearly Meeting and the many organisations in Britain, which for some friends is where much of the energy and dynamism lies. And we're strengthening governance support, in particular appointing a governance manager and improving our risk management through a more coordinated approach and training and development for staff. Moving on, I want to talk about changes to management meeting. Change. You know, we all want to change the world, but when it comes to changing ourselves, friends, we're not very good at it, are we? Time for my one Quaker joke. How many Quakers did it take to change a light bulb? Change? Light bulb? With the retirement of Gina Fenton and Vincent Poupard in 2016 and Richard Summers in 2017, to paraphrase Lady Bracknell, to lose one member of the management team might be regarded as a misfortune. To lose 3 seemed actually an opportunity. And trustees took this opportunity to look at the structure of management meeting and discern what roles are needed for increasingly integrated ways of working at Friends House. Just so that you know who they are, I'm going to ask the management meeting members to stand up when they hear their names. It became clear that we needed a recording clerk, Paul Parker, a deputy, Juliet Prager, a head of services, Paul Gray, a head of finance, Lisa Kew, and a head of Quaker work, Helen Drury. Thank you. Helen's responsibilities straddle Quaker peace and social witness and Quaker life, enabling these two distinct departments to work more closely in areas of common concern. Just to be clear, we have not merged the two departments. We don't intend to do so. And in any case, that's the kind of thing that's a decision of the yearly meeting. What we are seeing are the benefits of cross-party working. For example, our peace education staff, who are based in Quaker Peace and Social Witness, and our Quaker Life Children and Young People's team are working closely on producing materials such as Journeys in the Spirit. In the recent Refugee Week events at Friends House, run by the Forced Migration Project developer, the library proved to be really, really helpful. And our new staff member, working on our new Engaging Young Adult Quakers project, which is another legacy-funded post, and who is based in Quaker Life, is liaising equally easily with colleagues in Quaker Peace and Social Witness. The natural way that this is evolving is showing how far we've come. And back in January, the two central committees met jointly at Woodbrook, and the excitement and the enthusiasm were palpable. Titles, or as you might put it, the naming of parts. One of the unwritten duties of the Clerk of Britain Yearly Meeting Trustees is to keep her ear to the ground and to scan the letter pages of the Friend, not both at the same time, it's quite uncomfortable. But you may have picked up on some disquiet with some of the job titles we're currently using at Friends House, not the actual jobs, I'm pleased to say. We'll be reviewing the changes to management meeting I talked about a moment ago later this year, and again in 2018, and this will include looking at job titles. Friends, titles are really difficult. As individual friends, for the most part, we can get away without using them. But in the workplace, it's different. And here at Friends House, we do need job titles that are clear and comprehensible to everyone, especially when our staff are working collaboratively with those outside Friends House. Quakers are well known and widely understood. If you've got good suggestions, send me a postcard, drop me a line, come and have a chat. But I also want to say, isn't it time we reclaimed the word officer? It stems from the Latin officium, one who holds a position of trust or duty. In the words of Quaker Peace and Social Witness Central Committee recent report to trustees, we have talented and committed staff and we should trust them to do the work, while ensuring we have adequate monitoring in place to pick up any problems, as well as new opportunities. I want to thank all our talented and committed staff at Friends House, at Swarthmore Hall, and those out in the field for all they do. This report can only offer some of the highlights. If your area meeting wants to know more, and at our Meet the Trustees session yesterday, it became clear that we don't perhaps communicate as well as you would like, and we're going to work on that. But we're very happy to come and talk to you. We have made this offer known, but so far the take-up on our offer has been considerably lower than the take-up for Paul and Juliet, who accepted 25 invitations last year compared to 3 for us. We are not offended, not very much. But please come and talk to us. That's what we're here for. We want you to know what we are doing. And finally, friends, thank you for your trust in us, your trustees, because for me, trust is where head and heart come together.